I looked at data from over 1,000 of our healthiest over-50s clients. I found 8 things that they do differently to everyone else, which could be the reason why they're stronger, fitter, and more mobile than the average. In today's video, I'm going to share what those 8 things are, so hopefully you can follow their example. My name is Harlow, and I've helped thousands of people over 50 to improve their health, their mobility, and their strength. And today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the secrets from my most successful clients. The first thing our healthiest clients did differently was consistency. Every single one of the people I spoke to for this video had at least one kind of health practice that they did day in, day out. It might have been yoga, resistance training, or a walking habit, but they made sure they did it almost every day, only missing days for a very, very good reason. I think consistency is far more important than what you do to improve your health. If I do a 6 out of 10 gym routine, but I do it 4 days a week, every single week, that's so much better than someone who does a 10 out of 10 routine, but they only manage to get into the gym once every 2 weeks. The consistency beats quality almost every time when it comes to health. The next thing these people did differently was resistance training. We found that 75% of our sample had some kind of resistance training practice. Now, resistance training is one of the best things you can do for your health. It improves your mobility, your independence, your longevity, and even your mental health. Not all of the people in our sample had a gym membership. Many of them figured out ways that they could use objects lying around the house to work as resistance training tools. Some people used bags filled with books, others used resistance bands. Some of them went to the gym, but most of them just did something around the house. The people we spoke to had better muscle mass than their peers. They were stronger than the average, and they also seemed to be sharper as well. Before we go any further, I just want to tell you about a very special bonus I've created for viewers of this channel. It's called the Complete Guides to Building Muscle and Strength over the age of 50. And if you're someone who is a little bit confused about how to go about starting the process of building muscle and strength, you don't know what equipment to use or what exercises to choose, this is perfect for you. It's an exclusive 25-minute video that you can't find anywhere else, where I teach you all the ins and outs of building muscle and strength specific for people over the age of 50. So it's one of the best things I've created. I'm giving it totally for free to viewers of this channel. All you need to do is scroll down below this video. There's a link in the description where you can sign up. I'll send you the video straight away and you can get started. It's some of my best info, and if you use it, I hope you enjoy. The third thing the people in our study did differently was they all had some kind of walking practice. Without fail, I reckon each one of them walked at least 6,000 steps per day. Many of them had dogs, which definitely makes things easier because you can't let Fido down in the mornings. Again, that consistency thing comes into play yet again. Research suggests a dramatic improvement in health at about the 6,000 steps per day mark. But as I touched on a previous video, it might also be about the speed of your walking, not just how far you walk. So if you want to take their example and use it in your own life, I would recommend brisk walks, maybe a couple per day of only 10 or 15 minutes duration, as opposed to aiming for huge step numbers. However, many of the people I spoke to for this sample were pretty brisk walkers. They just did it out of habit, not because they knew it was good for their health, but that seemed to make a big difference to the people we spoke to. The next thing I noticed about people in our study is they all had some kind of purpose. Some of them had joined local groups, others had volunteered to drive the elderly around. Some of them were even writing a book. Now, most of these people were retired. I'd say at least 80% of them were no longer working, but they were all doing something to make themselves useful. There's studies that show that people who have purpose have longer and healthier lives, and that definitely fit the picture with our sample. The fifth thing we noticed about the people in our sample was that they all paid attention to what they ate. Now, not everyone in our sample followed a specific diet or a particular pattern of eating. They didn't all follow keto or fasting or anything like that, but they all paid attention to what they were putting in their mouths on a regular basis. Now, most of the people in the sample followed some kind of calorie discipline, which meant they were mindful of not overeating, and most of them were within a healthy range for their body weight. The thing that interested me, though, was that most of them had no interest whatsoever about reading the labels on their food. They really just picked something that worked for them, and then they stuck to it day in and day out. If they strayed a little bit, they didn't worry too much because 90% of the time, they were on point. Again, it comes back to that word consistency. 90% of the time, they did the right thing, and their health really improved as a result. The next thing we noticed about our sample is that they weren't afraid to work on stiff joints. Now, everyone is going to get some joint stiffness from time to time. Whether that's arthritis or a past injury rearing its ugly head, is going to affect us all. But the people in our sample didn't just accept stiffness as a part of life. They found those stiff joints and then they worked on them with some kind of mobility routine. Many of them did stretching or a mobility practice every morning, and that helped them stay supple and improve their mobility in other areas as well. By the way, if you're interested in improving your mobility, I've got some great routines to help you do just that in my lifelong mobility program. You can check it out in the description box below this video. The seventh thing we learned about our sample is that they were all socially active. Now, every single one of the people in our study had some kind of social commitment. It might have been a bridge club, it might have been meeting up with the family once per week, it might have just been going to the pub once a week to see friends. But without fail, every single one of them had some kind of social contact week in and week out. Now, this might surprise you, but loneliness is one of the biggest killers of older people. Being lonely increases your chance of dementia by up to 50%. That's 50. This is genuinely a really serious problem. The WHO declared that being socially isolated increases your chance of early death by up to 32%. So the risks here are massive. Now, it's important to say that not all of the people in our study were extroverts. They merely had a bit of social contact every single week. So if you're skimping on the social contact with friends and family, maybe reconsider that if you want the best chance of better health later in life. The eighth thing we found is that overwhelmingly everyone we spoke to had a positive outlook on life. Now, every single one of these people had had bad things happen to them in their lives, just like we all do, but they were able to approach those things with a great attitude. They laughed, they smiled, they made jokes. They even had little adages about things like aging, which can seem depressing even if we seem to get off lightly. One of them told me he had just been to visit his friend who was dying in a nursing home. And instead of feeling sad about it, he felt happy that he had had such great memories with this person, and he smiled as he recounted some of them to me. Now, this is in stark contrast to many people who might have the same experience, but experience it totally negatively. And there's research to show that if you have a positive outlook on life, you do generally experience better health, and you may even live longer as a result too. The final thing I noticed in speaking to these people, and this is probably the one that stuck with me the most, is that they overwhelmingly focused on the things that are in their control and ignored things that are not. Now, I met a lady in this sample who's had to use crutches for the last 2 years after a failed hip operation. Now, even though she could focus on all of the things she can't do now because of the crutches, she only wanted to speak about how she was planning to do things to get her off the crutches. She was focusing on what she could do right now to improve her chances, not what she was currently missing out on that she couldn't change. Now, this really stuck with me, and I think overwhelmingly this kind of an attitude, almost a stubbornness towards life, and just a focus on the things that you can control and ignoring the things that you can't, is a massive factor behind health, not just for older people, but for anyone.